Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Asma Hassan from Organon. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to our second Organon Pharmacist Academy session, focusing on excellence in patient care. Just to remind you, Organon's Pharmacist Academy, OPA, is a certified and accredited educational program designed for pharmacists in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar to help them deliver better patient outcomes and improve patient care inside the pharmacy. The program offers pharmacists from Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar a complete learning program focusing on improving patients' care inside the pharmacy, covering three main aspects: mastering patient communication, enhancing pharmacy operation and management, and utilizing artificial intelligence in the pharmacy. The program is CME accredited from both Dubai Health Authorities and the Qatar CPD. Participants will receive a certificate of completion from reputable international institute, Dublin Institute of Business, after completing the 3 online sessions. We had the first one already in May, focusing on patient communication. And today we have the second one with a special focus on pharmacy operations and supply chain. And we are expecting to close the program in October with the third session focusing on utilizing artificial intelligence inside the pharmacy. After completing today's session, you will receive an email with the details, the full details of the CME points certificates. And now, without any further delay, please allow me to welcome our first speaker for today, Dr. Dunya Bastaki, as she will share with us a presentation about drug safety and pharmacovigilance in community pharmacy, safeguarding patients through medication safety. And Dr. Dunya, she is the head of drug registration department and acting director of pharmaceutical and herbal medicines registration and control administration for the drug and the food control sector in the Ministry of Health in Kuwait. Let me welcome Dr. Dunya. The floor is yours now, Dr. Dunya, to start your presentation, and welcome to our program, of course.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's really my great pleasure to take part in the Organon Pharmacist Academy program, focusing on excellence in patient care. It's my honor and privilege to join you today, and I will just take you through an overview of the drug safety and pharmacovigilance activities and framework. We'll start from the drug development process throughout the whole journey, and then it will end up with the pharmacovigilance and drug safety and how we're supposed to monitor these kind of activities. So as you know, the development of drugs follow a well-established and rigorous pathway designed to ensure safety and efficacy before reaching the public. This comprehensive process involves multiple phases of testing, regulatory oversight, and continuous monitoring to protect patient safety while advancing medical treatment options. And each stage of the drug development builds upon the previous finding, creating layers of evidence to support both the therapeutic benefits and safety profile of new medications before they reach the patients. So if we would like to go through the drug development journey or process, it starts definitely on the lab. where the discovery and development takes place in the laboratory, including the whole potential therapeutic mechanisms of the active ingredient. And then it follows with the preclinical studies, where a comprehensive animal testing to evaluate the toxicity, pharmacokinetic, carcinogenicity, teratogenicity, and other aspects to establish an initial safety parameter before human exposure. Later, we move on to the clinical trials, which include from phase 1, 2, and 3 clinical trials on human testing to ensure safety and efficacy. Then, after finalizing the clinical trials, the dossier or the regulatory dossier is submitted to the regulatory authorities to review the whole set of documents that include preclinical, clinical, and quality part to ensure safety and efficacy and quality of the products. And then a marketing authorization or approval is granted before marketing. After marketing, the post-marketing monitoring would include the continuous safety surveillance that monitors a real-world drug performance and identifies previously unknown adverse effects in a diverse patient population. This is what we call pharmacovigilance or phase 4 clinical studies. And actually here we would focus today on our talk. So to wrap it up, the safety monitoring from a regulatory perspective would include a pre-market testing, initial safety profile that established through clinical trials, and then on the market approval, where the risk-benefit assessment determine if the drug can be approved or sold in the market, and follows by a continuous monitoring for a post-market surveillance to make sure that we are still on the track of the safety profile, and also to detect any rare or long-term adverse event that was not detected during the clinical trial before marketing of the product and approval of the product. So what is the term pharmacovigilance? Pharmacovigilance from the WHO definition stands for the science and activities related to the detection, assessment, understanding, and prevention of adverse effects or any other drug-related problems. So we have to make sure that the definition relates to any other drug-related problems that today also in our presentation we will tackle some of other drug-related problems other than adverse events or adverse drug reactions. So if we would like to go through the term pharmacovigilance or break down the term actually, pharmaco from the Greek stands for drug, and vigilance means from the Latin is to keep awake or alert or to keep watching. So it stands for a close and continuous attention from the pharmacist and from the healthcare professionals for any risk that might be identified during the use of the drug. So when we talk about pharmacovigilance, we have to go back and remember the thalidomide tragedy that I think most of you are aware of. The thalidomide tragedy, if I would go through it quickly, this product, the thalidomide, was widely prescribed in the late 1950s as a safe treatment for nausea and in pregnant women. They used to call it a wonder drug because it was one of the drugs that was really effective at that time, and they thought that it is a drug without any kind of adverse effect. The problem happened in the early 1960s, where more than 10,000 children were born without limbs or with limb deformities as a consequence of the thalidomide used during pregnancy. And around 40% of these children died. So after that tragedy, the thalidomide was rapidly withdrawn from the market in 1961. But actually this case or this tragedy had a fundamental transformation for the drug regulations at that time. After this, many of the health authorities tried to set up regulations and entities to regulate what is called pharmacovigilance or post-marketing monitoring for the safety. And they really gained attention for those kind of pharmacovigilance activities to be in place after this happened. All right. So Why the pre-marketing clinical studies are not enough? We said that before approval, any drug should undergo 3 phases of clinical trials and clinical studies to make sure that it's fitting to the criteria of safe and effective medicine. But it is enough for the primary or for the first marketing authorization. But it is always not enough because you have to follow up the patients. Because in the clinical, or on the context of a clinical study, you're doing the clinical study on a limited patient population, not like the real world setting where millions of patients are taking the medications. Number two, there is a restricted time frame in the clinical study. So for instance, a clinical study would take for 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever the time frame of the clinical trial. But actually in the real world setting, you are exposing the patient to a long-term use. Also in the clinical studies, it is a controlled environment. So the trial participant would typically avoid some medications, some diet restriction. There are a lot of, a controlled environment setting in a clinical trial, which is not actually the case in the real world. Also, the vulnerable populations like children, elderly patients, pregnant women, they are often not included in the clinical trials. So that's why there is a big need for pharmacovigilance and post-marketing safety monitoring. Also, I would like to highlight on some terminologies that we use during the pharmacovigilance presentations or training programs that I wanted to be very clear from the beginning. What is the difference between an adverse drug event and an adverse drug reaction? An adverse drug event, it's any unwanted medical occurrence that might be present during the treatment with a pharmaceutical product, but it does not necessarily have a causal relationship with the treatment. So the event happened, but it can be related to the drug or not related. We are not sure yet. If this adverse drug event is proved to be related to the drug, then we call it an adverse drug reaction. So the adverse drug reaction, by definition, is a response to a medicinal product which is noxious and unintended, including lack of efficacy, which occur at doses normally used for prophylaxis, diagnosis, therapy, or psychological function modification. And can also result from an overdose, misuse, or abuse. So this is a narrower definition that implies a causal relationship between medication. So as we said, if the drug X was given, and I had an adverse effect of, let's say, headache, if I'm not yet sure that this headache is a result from this X medication, then it is called an adverse drug event. After doing the causality assessment and having an evidence that yes, this headache is as a result of the X drug product, then here we call it an adverse drug reaction. Also, another terminology that we have to be aware of is the difference between serious and severe. So we can call this a serious adverse event or a severe adverse event. How to describe a serious and a severe? A serious is as the picture, you can see it on the left side for phocomelia. It is a condition that resulted in death or life-threatening event or hospitalization, whether it's initial or prolonged, or a disability, whether it's a permanent change or an impairment or disruption in the body function, physical activities, or quality of life, whether it's a congenital abnormality or a required intervention to prevent a permanent damage. If it fits through this criteria, then I will call this adverse event a serious adverse event. Okay, so what is severe adverse event? How can I describe an adverse event that this is severe adverse event? Severity actually describes the intensity of the adverse event. As you can see in the picture, there's an inflammation of the lips. Is it serious? It is actually severe because it refers to the degree or the intensity of the adverse reaction. Okay, so a reaction can be severe. Okay, it's very intense, like this picture on the right side, but not serious. Okay, and it might be also serious, but not severe. It's low intensity, but it is considered as a serious adverse drug reaction. Okay, also a term that we are using frequently is efficacy or effectiveness. Efficacy, we usually use the word or the term efficacy when we're talking about the extent of which a drug works under ideal or controlled circumstances in a clinical trial, for instance. So I would say the efficacy of the drug is like 70% when I'm talking about it's how it works in a clinical trial or a controlled setting. But I would use the word effectiveness when I need to describe the performance of the intervention under real-world conditions, including diverse patient population and varying. So in the real-world settings, it is the effectiveness of the drug. Okay, so the ADR, or the Adverse Drug Reaction Reporting Framework, or the system, creates a comprehensive network that connects healthcare providers, patients, pharmaceutical companies, and regulatory authorities. This integrated approach ensures that safety signals are rapidly identified, assessed, and acted upon to protect public health. So the responsibility of the safety or the adverse drug reporting system is actually maintained with those different stakeholders that I just mentioned. And we have all of us to connect together in order to get the proper safety monitoring and control of the medications used. So what should be reported? So as a pharmacist, what should I report? Actually, you should report all suspected reactions, including the minor ones, the aggregates, or even the significant reactions. So everything actually should be reported. I receive a lot of questions that, okay, we know that this drug is associated with this adverse drug reaction. So why should I report? Because every single report counts, actually. So as you know, some of the adverse drug reactions that we all know that they are related, but when they exceeded a certain frequency, then a specific regulatory action should be done, whether withdrawal from the market, change of the legal criteria of the drug. Any other changes can happen due to the change of the frequency of such reaction. And also we'll talk about it in this presentation. So actually everything should be reported. All serious, unexpected, and unusual adverse drug reaction that require immediate reporting signal and for a potential new safety issue, all these should be reported. Any change, as I mentioned just now, in the frequency of a known reaction that might indicate evolving risks or manufacturing problems or unique patient susceptibility. And also any drug interaction, any drug-drug interaction, drug-food interaction, drug supplement interaction, all these are very important to be reported. And as well, any ADRs associated with drug withdrawal or discontinuation that provide insights into dependency, potential and safe discontinuation protocols. All these are very important to be reported, and also medication errors should be reported. Lack of efficacy reports are also very important because also it affects the regulatory decisions. Any reports of drug abuse or drug misuse, any off-label use medications also is important to be reported, and any quality defects. What do I mean by a quality defect? Quality defect, it means like any kind of like changing the, let's say, the physical appearance of the drug product. For instance, there is crystallization on the bottleneck. There's change in the color of the solution. There is a contamination that is evidence, that we have an evidence for such contamination. Any change in the quality of the product also need to be reported. So all these are very important and really affects the regulatory decision, whether to keep the product or to have some restrictions for that such product. So as we said, the frequency is very important. And as you all know, when you read the patient information leaflet, you can see classification of adverse drug reactions under different categories. When we call it a very common adverse drug reaction, it is the reactions that affect more than 10% of the patients. Common when it is like from 1 to 10%. Uncommon, it ranges from 0.1 to 1%. Rare adverse drug reactions from 0.01 to 0.01%, and very rare when it is less than 0.01%. So the standardized frequency classification system, it really enables the healthcare providers and regulators to communicate risk levels consistently and help patients understand the likelihood of experiencing specific adverse effects. So as I was just mentioning, let's say we had a rare adverse event with this percentage, or with less than 0.1%. Okay, and then we received a lot of reports that would shifted from a rare to an uncommon adverse event. So it's here now. So we have to update the leaflet and ask the company to update their leaflet and place this adverse event in the category of an uncommon adverse event. If we receive more reports, then it will be here, or sometimes it would shift here. So that's why the frequency is very important. Sometimes when it's here as a very common and there is a drastic change or drastic jump of the number, or we receive a signal, then we can even take some more restricted regulatory actions. Okay, so who should report? Patients and consumers are eligible for reporting. Healthcare professionals are also eligible for reporting, which include physicians, specialists, pharmacists, pharmacy staff, dentists, nurses, and others. And also the pharmaceutical companies, they have a regulatory obligation to report the adverse events related to their products with a specific time frames. The reports that I received from a pharmaceutical company would be referred to ICSRs, or individual case safety reports. So the reporting tools that are available, we have online reporting systems, a web-based platform accessible for Kuwait Ministry of Health for submission of ADR reports, and also we receive paper forms. So I believe we have audience from other countries like Qatar and Bahrain. I believe you have your own systems, whether it's an online or a paper-based platforms for reporting. I will just go quickly on the Kuwait reporting system for the audience from Kuwait to know how to report. On the MOH website, www.moh.gov.kuwait, under the e-services icon, you will find business services. Okay, and then you have to click on drug reporting. Under drug and food control, you'll click on drug reporting. You will have a page that says, are you a healthcare provider? Then you have to click on yes. So if you click on no, so it's for the patients or the consumers. But as a pharmacist or a healthcare provider, you have to click here on yes. Then it will show you a drug reporting online forms. You have to click on adverse drug reaction reporting or pharmaceutical product quality report, the one that I just mentioned, when you have a problem with the quality of the product itself, or if it's a vaccine, then you click on a vaccine adverse event reporting form. Then you will have to add the data for the patient and suspected drug information. So you have to fill up the patient informations and the suspected drug information as well. And then you will have to include also the details for the adverse drug reaction description. You will explain it briefly here, the adverse event explanation, but please make sure you follow a chronological order of the event, how it started and how it gets, maybe after one day you see it better, or the patient had another complication. So whenever you explain the event, explain it chronologically and put up the medical history of the patient and relevant test results as well. When did the reaction started and when it stopped, and what was the outcome, whether the patient died or had hospitalization or significant disability, congenital impairment, required intervention to prevent the damage or impairment. And here also, you have to click on the outcome. It's a drop list. And was the problem solved or not? You have to select the answer. And did the problem reappear after the introduction of the suspected drug again? This is what we call a D-challenge and re-challenge. D-challenge is when you stop the medication and you see the patient, what is the effect of stopping the medication? And here, what we call re-challenge. If I reintroduce the drug again, whether the adverse drug reaction reappeared or no. So these two questions are very important if you have the information, of course. If you do not have the information, then you're right that the information is not available. And finally, you have to add the reporter data, which is if you, as a pharmacist, is reporting, then you have to add your information. And also make sure that the name of the patient can be kept anonymous. And even as a patient reporter, he can write, for example, DA, whatever, but I need to go back to it. It should be identified. So if the full name is not, they don't like to add their full name, but at least they have initials and like a mobile number, some sort of information that I can come back to it, because sometimes I need to have more information and to complete my investigation. So as we mentioned, we have also a quality report, which means this kind of reports that there's a problem with the tablet, there's a change in the solution, there's particles in the solution, whatever. So you can add it here. And if you can attach a picture of the affected batch and with the batch number and the details. So sometimes we need a sample to do a reanalysis process. So what is the minimum criteria for reporting? As a regulatory body or a pharmacovigilance office or whatever in your countries, you need at least 4 main information to proceed with the report and to work on the report on causality. If one of these 4 criteria is missing, the report is considered invalid and cannot be processed for regulatory review. What are these 4 criteria? I need to have an identifiable patient, whether patient initials, date of birth, or medical record number to ensure case uniqueness. So I need to have an identified patient. I need to have a suspected medicinal product identified as well, the name of the product, the manufacturer, relevant details of the medication, of the suspected medication, all right? I need to have an identifiable reporter. So the one who report, I should have a contact information to come back to him and take extra information if needed. And I need to know what is the suspected adverse drug reaction, the reaction itself, what happened, description of the adverse event, including onset, severity, and clinical manifestations. So if these are available, then we can, as a regulatory bodies, proceed with the report and do the necessary. Sometimes those information are valid, but whatever under those information is incomplete. The incomplete is considered valid since they have the 4 criteria, and we can go back to the reporter and ask for extra details. So don't worry if you don't have much of the details, but at least you have those 4 minimum criteria. Go ahead and report, and then any extra information can be dealt with. So when we receive this as a regulatory bodies or pharmacovigilance centers or departments or authorities, what we do with it? There is a special cycle that have to take place, which starts with the report recipient. We receive the report, we do the initial validation, we make sure that we have the 4 minimum criteria that we just mentioned, and then if it's a valid report, it will go for the next step. The next step is the case assessment. We do a medical review and causality evaluation by qualified person. Here, we make sure that it is fitting also to the medical criteria. We enter the data into our database, and then we do the signal detection if needed. What is the signal detection? If this report have any emerging safety pattern or trends, we call it a signal detection, and it will go to another pathway. If not, then it will complete whether a regulatory action is needed or no, it will be taken case by case. So the individual case safety report would be processed. We would do the case assessment or the causality assessment, and according to the data that we have, whether we have a signal or not, a regulatory action may be taken. So what is causality assessment? Now I received the report. I want to know whether this report or this adverse drug reaction is related to the drug or not related to the drug. So it is basically the question of how likely is this medication the cause of this problem in this particular patient. It might be a case of a problem, but not in this particular patient. So it is exactly this question. How likely is this medication the cause of this problem in this particular patient? So the causality assessment determined the probability that a suspected medication caused the observed adverse event. This systemic evaluation considered multiple factors, including temporal relationship, known pharmacological effects, alternative explanations for patient conditions. So here again, how we assess the causality. There are different criteria or different pillars that are important in this kind of assessment. The temporal relationship is important, the time. I took the drug today, and after like 2 hours, I had the adverse event. Okay. Or I took the drug today, and after 6 months, I realized that I had this adverse event. So the onset and the timing is very important for our causality assessment to be done properly. What else we consider? We consider the previous knowledge. So we look at the existing literature, the product labeling, the spontaneous reporting that we're having on the database. And of course, we are also members of the Uppsala monitoring system, the safety platform, VigiFlow and VigiLies, that we can know whether there are similar reports that has been reported worldwide or no. So this is also something that we have to analyze and take care of. The third thing is the medical history of the patient. We have to evaluate the patient's underlying conditions, risk factors, concurrent medications, any alternative explanation that could account for the observed adverse event. You remember when I told you there is the mechanism of de-challenge and re-challenge? De-challenge is the mechanism when we remove the drug. We stop the drug and we see the discontinuation would affect this adverse event or no. And the re-challenge is evaluation of whether the adverse event recurrent upon reintroduction of the suspected medication. So I will again give the medication and see the effect. Okay, of course, this is when ethically appropriate and clinically indicated. I cannot give a drug product which I know would harm the patient if I re-challenge it again. So that's why this is not usually happening in real life, but sometimes it is applicable and we use the re-challenge process depending on the medication and the medical condition. So what are the causality assessments used by regulators? The commonly used scales are the Naranja scale, which is most widely adopted algorithm, using around 10 standardized questions to evaluate the causality probability. And there's also the WHO probability scales, which is established by the WHO for the Program for International Drug Monitoring and Pharmacovigilance Programs. These are not really commonly used, but some authorities use them. The Naranja causality assessment scale, as we said, it's an algorithm of 10 questions, all right? Each question is scored, so there's a scoring system. So you have to give the answer, and there's a scoring criteria for each answer. It's based definitely on available evidence, and the total score determines the causality category. This standardized methodology ensures consistent evaluation across different reviewers and cases. And the scale addresses key elements, including temporal relationship, previous knowledge about the adverse reaction, alternative causes, objective evidence, re-challenge results, and dose response relationships. Of course, those are tools that help regulators for the assessment process. Is it necessary to use this? No, it's not necessarily. It's a tool that helps you. And there are other tools, other investigations that also can be taken depending on the case. And from the results of the assessment, you can get different, let's say, scores. If you have a score of more than 9, then there's a certain relationship. So this is a definite causal relationship with clear evidence, including positive re-challenge. we are 100% sure that this event is related to the drug. If we get a score of 5 to 8, which called probable, so it is probable that this medication is the cause of this adverse event. So there's a likely causal relationship with good temporal correlation and known adverse effect pattern. Usually it is when we know that this is related to that. From 1 to 4 score relates to possible, which considered a potential causal relationship, but limited supporting evidence is available or alternative explanation exists. And what about 0? 0 is unlikely. So there's no evidence or little evidence for causal relationship. Alternative explanation are available and more plausible. Okay. So after that, so we know that, let's say this one is certain, this one is probable, possible, whatever. We consider all the ICSRs or all the reports that we receive, and as we mentioned here, we might find a signal. Remember here, we said we might find a signal out of all the reports that we review. So what is a signal? The signal consists of reported information on a possible causal relationship between an adverse event and a drug. The relationship being unknown or incomplete documented previously, something new. So usually more, we have to make sure that usually more than a single report is required to generate a signal, depending upon the seriousness of the event and the quality of the information. So how can I consider this as a signal? A signal can be, for instance, something new, a very new, unexpected adverse event, but it's the first time for me to see it as a regulator. The product have been used for years, and it's the first time for me to find the signal. Or even sometimes the product is used for 1 or 2 years, and I get a signal, and I have to work on this signal, detect it, and manage it. So something new is considered as a signal, or change in the pattern or the frequency of a known adverse event. So as we said, the change in the frequency is also expected to be a signal. All right, so what should I do with this signal? How can I process it? How can I work on it? How can I manage it? The signal assessment. Signal is a risk, of course. So safety signal is a new risk that I want to work on it, investigate it, assess it, and evaluate it. So I would start with the first step with the signal identification. I will identify this signal. How I identify it? By systematic detection of potential safety concerns through database mining, literature review, clinical evaluation. From where I get the database? I get the database from the reports received for this product, local or international databases. Signal validation is the next step. So I identify the signal, then I need to validate this signal. Clinical and statistical evaluation to determine whether the identified signal represent a true safety concern requiring further investigation. So I validate it. I will see whether it's really considered a risk that needs to be worked on or no. And then I will do a risk characterization, which is a comprehensive analysis of the clinical significance, patient population at risk, and potential impact on the benefit risk profile. Here I will work more on the risk characterization, more analysis on the risks of the drug product. And then I need to manage this risk. I will not, if I consider the risk to be identified, then we have to work on implementing appropriate regulatory action, including labeling updates, risk minimization measures, or market withdrawal if necessary. So the signal and risk assessment process transform individual adverse event report that we just received into an actionable safety intelligence. This systematic approach ensures that emerging safety concerns are identified, evaluated, and addressed promptly to protect public health while maintaining access to the beneficial medication. And we usually say that it's very important to know that no product is harmless or zero adverse event. What we need to do is to evaluate the benefit-risk balance and to make sure that always the benefit weighs the risk. Always the benefits are more than the risks. If the risks are more than the benefits, then this drug should be withdrawn from the market or suspended from registration. So let me take you now into some regulatory obligations or regulatory requirements for the pharmaceutical companies in Kuwait. Having their products in Kuwait, they have to have some pharmacovigilance regulatory obligations and requirements to complete their marketing authorization of their product. It starts with the pharmacovigilance master file. I will take you with an overview. What is it? Periodic safety update reports, the PSURs of their PBRs, the risk management plan, and the safety communication. So what is a PSMF? The PSMF is a document called Pharmacovigilance System Master File. This file includes a comprehensive document that details the company pharmacovigilance system. Okay. When the company should submit this, it should be submitted along with the first submission of the registration the same. So I'm a company X that I want to register my product in Kuwait, and I'm pretty sure that this is a requirement in Oman and Bahrain and Qatar and all the GCC countries. So I want to register my product or my company. I have to submit to the authorities what supports that I have a robust pharmacovigilance system in place. So I have a company with a pharmacovigilance system, with a pharmacovigilance responsible person, and I can run any kind of safety report or safety signal. So it should be submitted, as I said, along with the registration CTD or ACTD submission. It includes the system description, so a description of the local and global pharmacovigilance procedure, the organizational structure in the company, which define the role of the qualified person for pharmacovigilance and his details, this responsible person. I will come back to him in case I need any safety information. I will go back to this QPPV and I will tell him I need information about 1, 2, and 3. So, and also it includes safety management protocols for adverse event handling and safety signal identification. And it should be in alignment with the regulatory authority regulation. So this is the first document, which is the PSMF. It should be submitted with each submission for regulatory approval. So this is number 1. Number 2 is the periodic safety update reports, which is the PSURs or the PBRs. The PSUR, each company have to submit the PSUR or the PBR on definite timelines or schedules. What is this? It is an aggregate report. So let's say, for instance, during 2 years' time, I'm a company X and I've been receiving adverse drug reaction reports from healthcare providers, from patients, from institutes, from different places, and I will do the necessary analysis, and when I submit to the authority to prove that during the marketing of the product, it is still safe and effective. Okay. So the PSUR or the periodic safety update reports or PBR, of course, PBR is the new terminology, and I show you the differences between the PSUR and the PBR. It's a vital pharmacovigilance tool to assess the ongoing drug safety after market release. Global regulatory agencies require them to ensure proper risk-benefit balance throughout the product life cycle. So the PSUR will be submitted to the authority, and it provides comprehensive documentation which collect and analyze all safety data from global sources. So the PSUR is not local. The PSUR include all the global data or safety data. It should be submitted on a periodic submission, regular timelines, follow regulatory requirements based on the product maturity, and the risk-benefit analysis, which evaluate if the product benefits continue to outweigh the potential risk or not. So what is the regulatory importance of the PSUR? Again, it's a legal requirement in Kuwait for maintaining marketing authorization. So companies that are not sticking to submission of PSURs, the marketing authorization or their approval cannot be renewed for the next renewal phase. It's a critical tool for regulatory agencies to identify emerging safety signals, and it provides standardized format for consistent global safety assessment and support the evidence-based regulatory decision-making for benefit risk evaluation. I will not go back again to it. The main components is safety data summary, adverse event evaluation, benefit risk analysis, and global regulatory status. Also, it's important to mention the global regulatory status. So I have a product X that has been suspended, canceled, withdrawn in Japan, for instance. Me as a company has to specify in this part that there has been a regulatory action taken, for example, in Japan for this product. Okay, I received from UK some obligations to update my leaflet and to include in the warning section this and that. I have to write here that in this country, I had this safety changes on the PIL. Any kind of regulatory actions that has been taken globally should be mentioned in this part when submitted to the authority. So what is the difference between the PSUR and the PBRL? The PSUR was as per the guideline, the ICH E2C R1, which is the older version. The PBRL is the new version as per ICH E2C R2. The PSUR focused mainly on safety data, but the PBRL, you will find it focusing on effectiveness and safety, both. And there is enhanced benefit risk evaluation part under the PBRL. So it will evaluate both the benefit and the risk of the product and will do the analysis at the end. So the PBRL format align international standards, reducing duplicative efforts while ensuring comprehensive global safety monitoring across regulatory regions. So another document, as we said, is important. It is the risk management plan and the risk minimization measures. As we said, most of the products, almost, let's say a lot of products, has an identified risk. Okay, what are the tools that I'm using to minimize such plans? So the RMPs, risk minimization plans, and risk minimization measures form the foundation of medication safety monitoring. These tools help identify, assess, and mitigate the drug-related risk throughout a product life cycle. So as we said, we identified the signal, we did the risk evaluation, there is risk. So now we know there is a risk. How should I mitigate or reduce this risk? So here it's important to show the risk minimization measures that are being set in place to prevent this risk and to maintain the therapeutic benefit of the drug product. So defining the risk management plan, there should be a safety profile which details the known risk, the potential risk, and missing information about a medicinal product. It is a living document, so it's a standalone document, multi-part, continuously updated by marketing authority. What do I mean by living document? It can be updated regularly during the life cycle of the product. And it covers life cycle coverage. It spans all phases from development through the post-marketing surveillance. It's always there. I always have to put a plan to minimize the risk. Who would put this plan? The marketing authorization holder or the company responsible for the product. Who would approve this RMP or risk management plan? The authority. Sometimes the authority would enforce some risk minimization measures on the marketing authorization holder company. So the key elements, as we said, risk identification, monitoring plans, risk minimization, and periodic review. I have always to review whether these risk minimization tools are effective or not. So the measures, the risk minimization measures can include, for example, restricting distribution programs. I would say that these products cannot be, let's say, given for a pregnant woman, for example. I can restrict the use, not to be used for elderly, not to be used for a patient with kidney problems. So I can restrict the distribution. Educational materials, I can disseminate educational materials for the healthcare providers or even for the patients. Prescriber trainings, I can initiate a training program for the prescribers to make sure they have, let's say, a checklist that this product should not be given to patients with liver disease for some kind of restrictions. Package modification, I can modify the package also to make sure that there's no risk. Sometimes there is a problem with child's using some sort of syrups, so that's why you can, or we started actually now mandating that each and every syrup should have a child-resistant cap to prevent children from using the product. Patient counseling also is very important risk minimization measures. And then there are other actually, but let's say those are examples from risk minimization measures. So these risk minimization measures, when they are put in place, you have to monitor and control the system, make sure that it is working properly and in place. So some examples of RMPs and RMMs in action. For example, the teratogenic drug labeling. We would put a label to ensure that this product is teratogenic. Just take care and keep an eye open that it not be given for pregnant women or even women in childbearing age. So it's an enhanced warning on medication that may harm fetal development, including pregnancy prevention programs. We can also, as we said, educate the prescriber. It's a mandatory training programs for physicians prescribing a high-risk medication like opioids or immunosuppressants. Or we can change the packaging innovation, specialized packaging for drugs with narrow therapeutic windows to prevent overdose or misuse. Also, one of the very important tools is the safety communications. It's a key tool in regulations and pharmacovigilance. The safety communication form an essential link for risk prevention in healthcare system worldwide. It's used by regulators, industry professionals, and medical practitioners to support patient safety and improve public health outcomes. What is safety communication? How to communicate the risk or the safety issue to the healthcare provider or to the patient. So the main purpose is, or the main definition is the process of communicating, as I just mentioned, the potential hazard, risks, and adverse reaction to all relevant stakeholders. It enables informed decision-making and promotes safer healthcare practices. The key targets here are the regulatory authorities, healthcare providers, patients, and caregivers. And the common elements that we use would include safety summaries, warning statements, contraindications, recommendations. For example, this kind of safety information can be included in the package insert or package leaflet, product label, summary of product characteristics. It can be through assessment reports that contain detailed evaluation of the safety signal. It can be through, this is one of the very effective actually tools that we use usually, direct healthcare professional communications. It's dear doctor letters, or let's say letters to healthcare providers that inform them with a new identified risk, new safety concern, how to treat, to deal with it, what is the recommendation. Who would issue the direct healthcare professional communication? It's either the pharmaceutical company themselves prepare a dear healthcare professional communication, take approval from the regulatory authority and disseminate, or it can be initiated by the regulatory authority that this is a dear healthcare provider letter and we disseminate to the healthcare providers. Also, it might include safety alerts, which is urgent notification about potential hazards requiring immediate action. This can be, let's say, for instance, on media or social media platforms when it's something really severe that we need all the public to make sure the information is, that they have the proper information. So just want you to take a look on the impact of the safety communication. All right. Here, the dark blue is before communication and the lighter color is after communication. So here's the adverse event, here's the medication error, and here's the trust score. So as you can see, effective communication forms the backbone of pharmacovigilance system. The effective safety communication significantly reduces the adverse event and medication errors, as you can see here. And it enables a faster response to emerging risks and builds stakeholder trust in healthcare systems. So what are the regulatory actions that can follow a pharmacovigilance trigger? It can be updating the leaflet, as we said, under the new adverse drug reaction, additional contraindications, revised dosing recommendation. For example, the dose, I would change the dosing in relation to the new risk identified. Timing requirements, regulatory deadlines vary by severity. So clinical warnings may require immediate distribution. We can change, for example, the OTC status or the legal dispensing status. The product is OTC. Now there's safety signal for this OTC product, so we can change it to prescription-only medicine, or we can change it to controlled medicine even, depending on the risk. We would now move into more stringent regulatory actions that might result in a recall, suspension, or cancellation. The recall is the immediate removal from distribution channels, public notifications, alert healthcare providers and patient about the risk. We can recall the whole product, or we can recall specific lots or batches if they are affected. So sometimes only 2 batches are affected with a manufacturing error, for instance, or mislabeling or whatever. So we can recall only these 2 batches. It doesn't mean that the whole product have a safety issue. No, it's only these 2 batches. Or sometimes, no, the whole product have an issue, so I need to recall it all from the market. So please make sure, is it a full market withdrawal or only specific batches? Because sometimes the information is you get the information not correctly, and it would affect the whole product prescription patterns and compliance, patient compliance with the product. Sometimes they will say, I will not take this product because there's a recall. No, the recall was for a specific batch, for a specific problem with this batch, not the whole product. So it's very important to give the information and to inform the patient with the proper safety actions or regulatory action taken. Okay, the second thing is suspension. What is suspension? Suspension is temporary marketing halt during investigation. The product may return if concerns are resolved. So as a regulatory action, I can suspend the registration of the product, meaning that I will not allow for any new shipments to enter the market or to be distributed into the market until the investigation is finalized. After the investigation, I might take an action. No, I don't want this product, it's withdrawn. Or no, it's okay, it's resolved. So the product can be again in the market. So I can revoke the suspension and allow the market again. So this is suspension. Also, it's important to know the difference. Sometimes it's a suspension, not a recall, meaning that no new shipments can come, but whatever they're in the market can be liquidated and dispensed. The last action is cancellation. Cancellation is permanent withdrawal of marketing authorization. The product cannot be sold or marketed again. I would cancel the product and no more shipments or batches can be used. Okay. As one of the case studies was the rofecoxib, which was withdrawn globally into southern form after surveillance that revealed increased cardiovascular risk. Also, there's something called PAS, which is post-authorization safety studies, sometimes requested by the authorities. And the final conclusion is that ensuring ongoing patient safety would include the critical success factors. That would include rapid regulatory response to safety signals, coordination of the global action across jurisdictions, a clear communication to healthcare providers, transparent patient information, and stakeholder collaboration. Thank you very much for your attention, and hopefully it's clear, and I'm ready for any questions from your side. Thank you.
Okay. Let me start first. Thank you, Dr. Dunya, for this fruitful presentation. Very, very comprehensive one, having a lot of points of discussion, which is in focus for the excellence in patient care of for pharmacists. And now we have a couple of questions. I will read it for you, doctor, so you can be answering the question we received on the chat. Then for the first question is saying if in our hospital patient came with allergy for medications received at home, but the medications brought from another hospital and no previous history for the patient. So for this patient, as a clinical pharmacist, should I report a suspected drug or only update on the system in allergy status?
Yeah, very important question, actually. Yeah, you have to report it, or you have the right actually to report it and to include all the details that you just mentioned in your report. Maybe you don't have the medical history of the product of the patient. This can be taken to a next level for like a request, an official request to the patient medical record, or even we can contact his doctor to get more information about that. So whatever information you have now, you can go ahead and report it as an identified patient with adverse event.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. And for the second question is saying, sometimes if suspected drug that received by patient from another hospital, we can make ADR because any ADR report monthly will reviewed by the P&T committee. Many questions by quality department as our investigations not complete. So please guide me for the best practice.
Yeah, as we mentioned, the incomplete investigation it is still considered a valid report. So even if you're still having this investigation ongoing, you can report and you can mention that the investigations are ongoing and we will update you. So you will start reporting and then you will complete on your initial report with more informations or more investigation or more data that you are getting along your investigation report.
Okay. Thank you, Dr.
But
Dunya.
also, you have to make sure that there are timelines for the serious adverse events for the non-serious. So you have to maintain the timelines requested by the authorities. And as I mentioned, if you're still ongoing with or still having some issues that you need to complete, you can complete meanwhile.
Thank you, Dr. Dunya, for answering this question. There is another question is saying, is there any time limit for using antibiotics?
You mean as a timeline for administering or using that? You have to stick to the product label. So whatever the product information states, for example, because it depends on the type of antibiotic and depends on the condition as well or the disease. So you have to stick to the labels, label information, because those label information are the information supported by studies and are approved by the regulatory authorities.
Okay. So here, I think they answer your question, doctor, for the antibiotics. Like if you are already using Augmentin from last 7 days, and now the patient came again to consult a doctor, again, doctors prescribe Augmentin. And this is the...
Also, it depends on the condition, the medical judgments, and the condition of the patient. It depends case by case, actually.
Okay, so it depends case by case as you were answering this question. Now, doctor, there is another question. Dr. Dunya, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is another question, doctor, is asking about how does the authority evaluate differences in excipients and the manufacturing process among the medications and the generics? I think mean the brand medication and generics manufacturers.
Okay. So evaluating the generics as per the international standard would depend on different criteria, quality data, of course. And something very important is the bioequivalent studies between the brand and the generic, including in vitro dissolution profiles or testing to test the originator or the brand versus the generic. So the bioequivalent studies, as I mentioned, is compulsory for all generics. So we make sure that both the generic and the originator have the same rate and extent of absorption of the active ingredient or the active molecule, and they are within the scope of a special confidence interval that makes sure that they are operating the same or they are working the same in the patient body. Also, we do request what we call in vitro dissolution profile to make sure the different strengths are also still bioequivalent to the originator drug.
Okay. There is one more question, and the last question, just to stack also to our time. The question is saying, Doctor, what patient information is required when reporting a side effect? It's age, gender, weight, medical history, concomitant medication. If a patient refuses to share personal data, what is the correct reporting procedures? Will anonymize or partial report still be accepted by the government?
Yeah, you can partially report, as we mentioned. So it's an incomplete report, it would be actually, but at least you have identifiable patient. So if you have identifiable patient, we can do the necessary work afterwards and try to get the extra information needed. So even if it's partially complete, you can still report.
Okay. I think this is our last question. I did not receive any more. Let me just confirm the chat as well. Okay, so no more questions right now. Thanks a lot, Dr. Dunya, for this presentation. Thanks a lot also for our audience for the interaction and comments. They are all thanking you for this comprehensive presentation and full comprehensive data. Thanks a lot to be with us today, Dr. Dunya. And now, without any further delay, we will start to present our second presenter for today, Dr. Ra'fat Youssef will be with us with a presentation that will be especially focused on the pharmacy operation and supply chain with a lot of fruitful data as well. Dr. Youssef is a consultant and a professor of strategic management in the Arab Academy of Science and Technology. Welcome, Dr. Ra'fat, to our program, and the floor of yours to start.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you today again after the first session. Last time we did discuss the communications with patients and how to use this tool effectively in order to engage the patient and get their buy-in. Today we will discuss a very important topic, which is pharmacy supply chain and operation. We will discuss a lot of topics today. We will give an intro about supply chain, then we will talk about replenishment, then optimizing operation efficiency and cost control. And finally, we will end with a very interesting part, which is merchandising and indoor marketing. I will do my best to give you as much as we can of the data, because actually topic is very wide. I will start to define what is supply chain, and supply chain is a process that starts with a supplier and ends with the end user. End user here is the patient. So we have a supplier, we have a manufacturer, we have a wholesaler, retailer, and finally the patient or the customer. This is the supply chain process itself. Raw material sourcing, then manufacturing, distribution, and dispensing logistics, and finally dispensing with the patients. This is the steps in more details: raw materials and packing. Then we will store the raw material in warehouses. Then we will go to the manufacture of the production process to have a finished product. The finished product will be distributed through regional, after being stored in the regional warehouses, through these distributors to the retailers and hospitals, and finally the consumer. Let's start with optimizing operational efficiency and cost optimization. This is a very important triangle. If any of you did study project management, I'm sure that you know this triangle. We call it in strategic management, sorry, in project management, strategic triangle. We have time, we have cost, and we have quality. Quality here, it means performance. The role of management and innovation is to reduce time, reduce cost, and enhance quality and performance. This is the role of management and innovation. How to use the management as a science, how to use innovation to reduce time and to reduce cost, and finally to enhance the quality. There is a very famous model in strategic management. We call it value discipline triad. Value discipline triad. It's actually a model that consists of 3 pillars. These pillars are important for the efficiency of the organization. The first one, we call it product leadership. How to produce innovative products, how to enhance your pipeline, and this function is related to the R&D team. So if we have a very professional R&D team, we will master product leadership. The second pillar, which is customer intimacy, here we are talking about how to satisfy your customer, how to engage your customer, and this is the role of the customer service and marketing team. Finally, we will end with the third pillar, which is related to our today session, which is operational excellence. Operational excellence. Here we are talking about the quality, the convenience, the ease of use, and on the other side, how to control the cost. Toyota is considered to be a role model in operational efficiency and operational excellence. They have a lot of tactics that can contribute reducing the cost, like JET, just in time, which means zero inventory. Just in time, it means zero inventory. Kaizen, it's part of the lean manufacturing, and Kaizen, it's about continuous improvement. Continuous improvement. And finally, this is a very famous technique in production. We call it one-piece flow. And here we have to stop a little bit to discuss what is one-piece flow. We have 2 types of production techniques. As we see here in this slide, we have one-piece flow and we have batch flow. What is the difference between one-piece flow and batch flow? Let's take a very easy example to understand the difference between both of them. Let's assume that we have 100 burger sandwiches we need to make. The sandwich consists of 2 steps. We have to put the burger and then we have to put the sauce. So I have 2 steps. According to this scenario, we have 2 options. The first option is to put the burger for the 100 sandwich first, and then to repeat the second process, which is the sauce. The second option is to which is the one-piece flow, I will take the burger and then I will put the sauce. This unit is now complete. I have to go to the second one. I have a very nice exercise here, and I need to give you your answers on the chat. If I have 10 units, for example, 10 products to be finished or to be manufactured, and each product has to pass through 5 steps or 5 machines. Each step or each machine for a single unit, it's equal to 1 minute. So if we go with the batch flow, how many minutes are required to finish the 10 units? Can you give me your answers on the chat? Still, I did not receive any answer. How many minutes do I need to finish the 10 units with the 5 steps using the batch flow? Thank you so much. It's 50 minutes. Because actually the 10 minutes, the 10 units will stand for 10 minutes for the first machine, 10 minutes for the second machine, and so for the 5 machines, it will be 50 minutes. Can you imagine how many minutes will be consumed using the one-piece flow? One-piece flow, it means the first unit on the first machine. This is the first minute. During the second minute, the first unit will be on the second machine, and second unit will be on the first machine. 3 minutes at the third minute, the first unit on the third machine, second unit on the second machine, third unit on the first machine. Can you imagine how many minutes? The 50 minutes will be very reduced. Can you give me the answer? How many minutes we will use in order to finalize the 10 units using the one-piece flow? Still, I did not receive an answer. 5 minutes, okay. Other answers? No, it's not 50 minutes. 50 for the batch, not for one piece. One piece, it will be very few number of minutes, but actually it's not 5, a little bit higher. It will be 14 minutes. 14 minutes. The equation is number of steps, which here is 5, plus n minus 1. N is the number of units. So number of steps is 5, number of units is 10, 10 minus 1 is 9, so 5 plus 9, it's equal 14 minutes. Here we are talking about the importance of management. Management is a science that is used to enhance efficiency, to enhance productivity, to decrease cost, and to decrease actually time. That's why any company actually is giving very high salary for the CEO of the organization. Why? Because he has a strategic mindset, and this strategic mindset can enhance the productivity of the organization. We have a couple of stories here. This is the first story. The person who is on the right, this is Henry Ford, the godfather of the automotive industry globally. And the person on the left is the godfather of old management. His name is Frederick Taylor. By the way, Henry Ford was an engineer. Frederick Taylor was an engineer, and he is the founder of industrial engineering. But on the other side, he had a management experience, and that's why Henry Ford started to ask Frederick Taylor to come and work as a consultant with him. Why? Because Henry Ford was trying a lot to enhance the productivity of the factory, but he did not succeed. So he actually called Frederick Taylor and asked him, can you give me some management advices to enhance the productivity and the production capacity of my factory? Frederick Taylor, as a management consultant, he started to think about how to increase the productivity. He started to scan what is happening within the factory. What he found at the end of the day, that we have a car, which is the body of the car. It's located in a certain place within the factory, and each employee will go to this car to fix or to put or to finish a part of, for example, I'm responsible for the engine. I'm going to take the engine, go to the car, put the engine, and finish this process. Let's say that this process take, for example, 3 hours. What if the employee or the labor stayed for 4 hours? Nobody will know. That's why Frederick Taylor recommended that we have to put the body of the car actually on something that is moving to stand in front of each employee, the required time for fixing this part. What happened at the end of the day after we applied, or after they applied this technique? The productivity of the factory increased by 35% without any investment. Without any investment. This is the role of management. And if we are going to analyze what happened, it's about time management. Time management. Why? Because the employee knows that the machine or the car will stay in front of him the certain time. So he has to finish his part before the end of this time. So this is a very famous story about how management can enhance the productivity of the organization. Here we have some techniques also that is related to production. We have mass production and we have customization. Mass production, it means, and also it has another famous name, economy of scale. It means producing large number of units to reduce the cost. The question here, which cost will be reduced with the mass production? Is it the fixed cost or the variable cost? Once we have a mass production, the cost will be minimized. Which cost will be minimized? Fixed cost or variable cost? Can you give me your answers on the chat? Which cost will be minimized with the mass production? Fixed cost or variable cost? I hope that you will can give me some answers. Variable cost, okay. Fixed. I have two options or two answers. One is fixed and one is variable. Fixed cost does not change because it's called fixed cost. It's a cost that we actually are paying without anything. Variable cost will increase with the mass production because actually I'm producing more units. But to be correct, it's the fixed cost per unit. You should not say fixed cost. Fixed cost per unit, which we call it in business contribution. And this is the mass production. The advantage is to minimize the cost, but the disadvantage is customer dissatisfaction because I'm producing one type, one size, one color. So the customization has an advantage and disadvantage, which are the opposite of the mass production. Customization satisfies the customer, but on the other hand, it will increase the cost. And that's why we have a very famous mix between mass production and customization. We call it mass customization. So the mix between mass production and customization, we call it mass customization. I'm going to produce limited number of products. With each product, actually, I'm going to produce very large units. Large units will minimize the cost, and having more than one product will satisfy the customer. This is a very nice story about how management can enhance productivity. And actually, it's related to many things in our life. The person who is here in this slide is called Pareto. And he has a very famous ratio. We call it Pareto ratio, or 80-20. And actually, many of you will be surprised with the P. What is the relation between Pareto and the P? You know that every theory in life, like the gravity, which was created by Newton, it's about an observation. Someone can see something, and then he can link this to, or can go with a ratio or a rule at the end of the day. Pareto was an Italian economist, and actually he used to cultivate pea in his garden. He observed very strange phenomena, which is 80% of the pea, here I'm talking about the balls itself, are coming from 20% of the covers. 80% of the pea balls are coming from 20% of the covers. He started to think about this strange phenomena. And as an economist, he started to do the same regarding economy. He found that 80% of land belongs to 20% of families. At this point, he was sure that it's a rule that can be applied for everything in life, And that's why we can say that 20% of suppliers can give 80% of our results. 20% of customers can give 80% of results. And here we are talking about efficiency using management models. Let's maximize the issue. I said two things. We have almost 4 things remaining. 20% of customers can bring 80% of revenue. 20% of suppliers can give 80% of revenue. Can you help me with the other 4 points? Please send me your results. I'm still waiting for your results in the chats. Products, thank you so much. 20% of products will give me 80% of revenue. What else? Guys, I'm still waiting for the answers. I received one answer, which was dealers. Okay. So we received right answers. We need more. Investments. Thank you so much. I'm so happy with the answers. What else? Selling. Okay. Right. Let's go to the answer. 20% of customers will produce 80% of revenue. 20% of suppliers will give 80% of revenue. 20% of products, 20% of sales people, or in general employees, 20% of regions, 20% of expenses. Actually, it's the same answer like investment. Investment here, we are talking about expenses. What we see right now is analysis. It's not a tactical part or actions. We need to use some actions based on this analysis. So I'm going to allocate the best employees with the most important customers. The best employees to work with the more strong and strategic products. The 20% of employees to be with the most important regions. I will spend most of the budget to the most potential customers, to the most important suppliers. So it's about mixing and matching different actions based on this analysis. And if you have time after we finish this session, you can go to LinkedIn and read this article. How Steve Jobs, using 80-20 thinking, saved Apple from bankruptcy. As you know, without mentioning a lot of details, Steve Jobs actually started Apple, I think, 1973, and that time he was very young and is not eligible to be a CEO for a company. That's why he asked one of his colleagues, he's called John Scully. He was the CEO at that time of PepsiCo. And actually, he asked him to come to be responsible for Apple as a CEO. And actually, John Scully actually approved this action. Then what happened? There was a conflict between John Scully and Steve Jobs, and that's why the board of directors, they kicked out Steve Jobs away from Apple, and he stayed almost for 20 or 25 years away from Apple. Early 90s, Apple was approaching bankruptcy, and that's why the board of directors, they kicked out John Scully and asked Steve Jobs to come back. When Steve Jobs came to Apple, early 90s, he found that the company has 300 products, 300 products. He started to apply the 80-20 rule. What he did find is that most of the profit came from very few number of products. What did Steve Jobs do? He canceled 290 products and he kept 10 products. What happened to the company revenue and profitability? It goes up very, very fast. This is a very important proof that it's not about number of products, it's about efficiency. So you have to think about the 80-20 rule in everything in your life. This will help you to enhance your productivity. We will go to another issue, which is demand forecasting. Either this forecast is for 1 month, is for quarter, is for semester, or it's an annual forecast. I need to do this as a pharmacist. I need to forecast the number of units for each product to be consumed within the pharmacy. Why? In order not to lose a deal, and at the same time to satisfy my customer. If a patient is coming and asking about a medication and I told him that I do not have this medication, this is not right. And one of the customer rights is to find the required medication. So simply I have to understand how to set the forecast, how to understand the future pattern of sales or of demand. We have here 7 steps regarding the forecasting process. First one, determine the use of the forecast. Why I'm using or I'm doing the forecast. Select items to be forecasted. And actually here, if we do link this with the 80-20 rule, I have to focus and I have to do the forecasting for at least the 20% of products which generate the 80% of sales. The third step, determine the time horizon of the forecast. Is it for 1 month, for 1 quarter, for 1 year? Then select the forecasting model or equation, gather the data, make the forecast, and validate the result. Because sometimes the accuracy of the forecast is not high. And maybe we have more than one method. And then I have to compare both methods, which of them has highest confidence and accurate rate. We have a lot of methods. I'm not going to discuss all of them. We have quantitative methods, which means equations, naive method, moving average, exponential smoothing, trend projection. On the other side, we have qualitative methods. I have to focus on a very famous qualitative method. It's called Delphi technique. and you have to go to browse on the Google and actually gather a lot of data about Delphi technique. Delphi, it's the name of the person who did create this method. Delphi technique, it means if you want to do a forecast for an important issue and you do not have the experience to do this, you can ask more than one consultant or one expert, but it's very risky to ask these experts to sit together, because we have something which is, it's very bad to have it while we have brainstorming. It's called conformity. Conformity, someone will affect the opinions of the others. And that's why in Delphi technique, I'm going to ask everyone separately and receive his answer separately in order not to affect it. Then we will collect the answers and give it and send it to all of them. And we will go many times until we have a consensus. This is what we call it time series patterns, trend, either increasing or decreasing, cycle, seasonal, and the difference between seasonal and cyclical, the cyclical, the peak actually can stay more than 1 year, but in seasonal, it's less than 1 year. Random, it means we have no pattern. Let's have a very simple exercise here, and I need your answer. 2024, the actual sales production units, whatever, it's not it's about numbers here, was 100. During 2025, it became 120. I need to set a forecast for 2026. What I did here, I'm going to multiply 120 by 120 to be divided by 100. Can you tell me what did I do here? Why did I multiply 120 by 120 and divide it by 100? Can you tell me what did I do here? Still waiting for answers. I need even one answer. What I did here is multiplying the last year by itself and dividing it by the previous year. And this means, by the way, this method is called naive method. Naive method. Why did we call it naive method? Because actually it assumes that what happened in the past will continue in the future. Because if you look to the numbers here, from 100 to 120, the increase is 20%. If you add 20% to 120, it will be 144. So we can do this if the increase between a month and the next month, or a year with the next year, is a little bit fixed growth, 10% every year. So I can add 10% for the next year. Someone, because it, as you said that, because it assumes increase with years. Thank you so much. Here we have another example. 2023, the production units was 50. 2024, it reduced to be 20. 2025, 35. I need to do a forecast for 2026. I have two options here. The first one, I will add or have a sum of the 3 years, 50, 20, 35, and then I will divide by 3. So this is the average, simple average, 35. The second method, I will give weights, because in the first method, which is SMA, and I will tell you a few minutes later what does it stand for. In SMA, the weight for each year is equal, 33.3. But here in the second method, which we call it WMA, I need to distribute 3 different weights, 50%, which is here 0.5, 30%, which is here 0.3, 20%, which is here, 0.2. To the 3 years, I already intended to set a wrong order. I put the 50% for the 2023, 30 for 2024, 20 for 2025. Can you please give me the right answer? Should I give the highest weight, which is 50%, to the oldest year or the most recent year, to the biggest number, which is 50, or to the lowest number, which is 20? Still, I received nothing. Okay. By common sense, I have to give. Can you repeat the question? The question here, I have 3 years, and each year has an actual amount, either of sales or production. So we have 20, 35, 50. The first method to forecast the next year, I already have a sum of the 3 years, and then I divide it by 3, which means each year has the same weight, 33.3. Here, I need to do another thing, to give different weights, 50%, 30%, 20%. So I have to allocate every percentage to a year. So should I give the highest percentage, which is 50 years, to 2023 or 2024 or 2025, and why? I received 35, but I cannot understand 35 for what? I need to allocate the weights for the years. So 50% to 2023, as you see here, or this is wrong? Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Muhammad. 2025, the highest since it's the most recent. Thank you so much. I'm so happy with the answer. So I will give 20% to 2023, 30% for 2024, and 50% for 2025. So because what is happening in 2025, the possibility of these things to continue in the next year will be higher than what is happening in 2023. The first method, we call it simple moving average, which has a little bit low accuracy. The second one, it's called weighted moving average, which has a little bit a higher accuracy rate. We have to talk about replenishment. And replenishment, it means restocking the medications available at the pharmacy to ensure a continuous supply for patients. And if you think about the order of the presentation today, everything will lead to the forthcoming thing, because in order to master the replenishment, I have to do a proper forecast. And in order to do a proper forecast, I have to think about the 80-20 rule. So you have to think in a logical way, in an analytical way. This process can involve manual or automated restocking of shelves and robotic systems, often using predictive analytics, or usually we call it data mining, to prevent medication shortage. We have a lot of techniques regarding replenishment, but actually we cannot do it today. This is the final part of our presentation today. It's about merchandising and indoor marketing. It's about a topic that is overlap between marketing and supply chain. I need to enhance the efficiency of the organization. So I need to increase the visibility of the medications on shelf, especially for the O2C medications. So I have to know the tactics for merchandising. What is merchandising? Merchandising, it's the science that actually is about how to display products over shelf. How to display products over shelf. So here we are talking about merchandising tactics. Let's start with, it's not working. Let's think about this slide. While patients or any person is making a shopping, we have two types of vision. We have central vision and we have peripheral vision. Central vision, it means like if you're looking through a tube. So this part is called, this part of vision is called central vision. While the peripheral vision, actually, if you look at the yellow line here, this is the peripheral vision. And this part is the central vision. This is, by the way, the aisle, the shopping aisle. And this is the shelves on my right and other shelves on my left. And this is the shopper himself or herself. The question here, if we did understand the difference between central vision and peripheral vision. Regarding shoppers, do shoppers shop using the central vision or the peripheral vision or both? And if both, which starts first, the peripheral vision or the central vision? I need answers. If you want to repeat the question, peripheral, okay. One answer. Central, subconscious while walking, central and peripheral. Yes, the right answer is the last one. It's central and peripheral. It starts with peripheral because actually the patient or the shopper and the chart number 1 is walking this way. So he can scan the left and the right shelves with the peripheral vision. Central vision here has nothing. And that's why you have to take care of this. The first part of the shelf on the right and on the left, we consider this part to be a blind spot. Why? Because as you see, the peripheral vision, it starts from here. So if I'm here, I'm coming this way. The first meter on my left and on my right, you can consider this part to be a blind spot. And that's why in pharmacies and supermarkets, usually we put essential products in the blind spots. Why? Because people will search for them because they are essential. And we will put non-essential products after the first meter, especially on the eye level, because regarding merchandising, we have eye level and we have foot level. There is a very famous quote regarding merchandising. It says, eye level is buy level. Eye level is buy level. So you have to put the non-essential and the expensive products on the eye level. Why? In order to enhance the visibility. Let's go to another technique. We call this technique vertical blocking, putting the boxes of the medications this way will enhance the visibility. We call it in merchandising vertical blocking. So we have to think about this. Maybe the disadvantage of the vertical blocking is to consume a big space on the shelf, but you can put the boxes which are located inside the way you need. But the outer box, you have to put it this way in order to enhance the visibility. This is also called vertical blocking. What about this? Can you tell me an association here? Something that is not regular or not common? I need an answer. Isolated products. No, I'm not talking about the isolation. Tissues with cold medications. Yes, right. You know what is this? What does we call it? Actually, medications are not related to clinics. This is medication, and this is tissues. Cross-selling, Dr. Rami. So can I ask you another question? Is it cross-selling or cross-merchandising? Is it cross-selling or cross-merchandising? And we have to know the difference between both of them. As we did start this final part with the definition of merchandising. And the definition with merchandising is how to display products over shelf. How to display products over shelf. So this is called cross-merchandising. Cross-merchandising. What is cross-merchandising? Displaying products that can be used together on very small space or close to each other. Why? Any patient who has a common cold will go to the pharmacy asking for or searching for a common cold medication like Dayquil. And when he actually starts to pick Dayquil, he will think when he see the clinics, oh, I need clinics because actually I have a common cold. So here, the essential product is the Dayquil. The complementary product is the clinics. And that's why this will increase your sales and will satisfy the customer because the customer is asking for both of them. But actually, he's focusing more with the medication. What about cross-merchandising? Sorry, this is cross-merchandising. What about cross-selling? Cross-selling is how the pharmacist is negotiating with the patient. I have a patient that he's asking about a toothpaste. Before selling the toothpaste to the patient, I'm asking him, what about the brush? Do you have a brush that is old or that is new? No, I bought a brush 3 years ago. So you have to change the brush. Here, this is called cross-selling. Cross-selling. But the cross-merchandising, it's how to display products, related products on shelf. Cross-selling is how a professional pharmacist can cross-sell or sell a related product to a first product. This is another example of cross-merchandising. This is a diaper and this is wet wipes for the cat. So I have to put both of them together in order to maximize my sales. What do you think the merchandising tactic here, which will enhance the visibility of the product for the shoppers? We have here a merchandising tactic. Can you tell me what is merchandising tactic here? Okay, maybe the picture itself is not so clear. This is called bulging shelf. Bulging shelf. Part of the shelf is protruding, which means it will get the attention more than the other parts of the shelf. This is called bulging shelf. This is also a very hot spot in the pharmacy, this part. We call it end caps. So if you want to do an offer or to put a sign, put it here, which will attract the attention of the shopper to go into this aisle in order to have this offer. This is called end caps. As we said before, eye level is by level. So you have to put the non-essential product and the more expensive products on the eye level to enhance the visibility. Finally, we can have some advertising or local advertising inside the pharmacy. We call it point of sale display materials, POS materials. Like what? For example, here I have something in front of the shelf. And by the way, it's movable, because if someone stuck with it, actually it will move with him. This is called shelf stoppers. Shelf stoppers, because actually it will enhance the visibility of the products. This is another example of shelf stoppers, because it stops the customer or the patient to see the product that is displayed here. This is called shelf talker. It's from talk. Shelf talker. I put a sticker on the shelf to communicate some information about the product to the customer. This is called shelf talker. Maybe the information regarding efficacy, regarding size, regarding price, and so on. So what is the difference between the picture on the right side and the two pictures on the left side? It's about the shape of the sticker itself. The one on the left, on the right side, it's the regular shelf sticker. But the one on the left side, we call it wobbler. Wobbler, it's a sort or a type of shelf talkers, but actually the design is different. It's about a circle with a neck, and then it will be fixed on the shelf. What is the difference, and which is more effective? The wobbler is more effective than the shelf talker. Why? Because actually, when the patient or the shopper is moving, actually the air will make the wobbler move, and this will enhance the visibility of this product. So this is called shelf talker, and the one on the left side, wobbler. This is called gondola or gondola. Actually, this is a very, very important part of the visibility, and actually we can consider it to be a hotspot. We have here floor ads. Floor ads. It enhances the visibility and attracts customers. It's a very nice shape of floor ad. This is also called see-through. See-through, and it's a very famous point of sale material for many pharmacists in different countries. It's see-through. We have a sticker here. The patient, while he's moving in the street, will see the sticker, while the doctor who is inside the pharmacy is actually seeing the street. The last topic that we will talk about today is the packing. Sometimes I need to prepare a medication and put it into a box. And here I'm talking mostly about fluids. Why? I have here 3 bottles. Can you tell me which one is the biggest one? I mean, the one that will have the highest capacity. Is it the bottle on the right, or in the middle, or in the left? What do you think? Crystal? Okay, the one on the right. Okay. The highest capacity, which one? By shape, middle. Okay. Middle one. Yes, the right answer is the middle one. Why? Is it the highest capacity? Unfortunately not. All of them have the same capacity, 1 liter. But the middle one gives us the illusion that it has a higher capacity than the other 2 bottles. Why? We have 3 rules regarding the bottle to communicate a bigger size. You have to have a transparent bottle. Using transparent bottles gives you the illusion of the higher capacity. If the bottle has a color like blue or red, this is not right. So transparent bottles. The second one, taller than wider. Taller bottles communicate higher capacity than wider bottles. The third one, irregular bottles. So if I want to put a fluid within a bottle and I want to communicate a message to the patient that this bottle is big and has a very high capacity, I have to apply three things: transparent bottles, irregular bottles, tall bottles. So this is three tools regarding packing. I did finish my part. I hope it was beneficial and fruitful for all of you. Thank you so much for your attendance and your listening. Now we have three questions or three polls. I need your answers. Here we are talking about which of these three items: mass customization, mass production, customization, which of them can maximize company profit but dissatisfies customers? Will enhance profitability of the company but dissatisfies customer or lead to customer dissatisfaction. Is it mass customization, mass production, or customization? طيب ناخد كده 5 ثواني. Sorry, let's take 5 seconds for getting the answer. So can we get the answer right now? Uh, 35% mass customization, 47% mass production, 18% customization. The right answer actually is the answer with the highest percentage, which is mass production. So mass production maximizes company profit, but actually dissatisfies customers. Let's go to the second question. Which of these three factors or three items means zero inventory? Just in time, mass customization, or make to stock? Let's have 10 seconds. This is the result. Okay, just in time is 51%. I cannot see the other answers. Sorry, okay. And 16% mass customization, make to stock. So the right answer here is the answer with the highest percentage, which is 51%. So just in time means zero inventory. The last question, pharmacy hotspots include end caps, eye level, all of the above. We are talking here about the hotspots of the pharmacy. Is it only the end caps, eye level, or all of the above? I think very easy questions. So thank you so much. 79%, all of the above. Actually, the right answer is all of the above. End caps and eye levels can be considered to be hotspots. Dr. Asma, I did finish. If any questions, I'm ready.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Rafat, for your presentation and for your information with a lot of examples to make it easy, of course. And for the questions available right now, I have a couple of questions. Let me just read the first question for you. When companies try to optimize costs, how do they make sure they don't compromise operational efficiency on patient safety?
Actually, increasing efficiency and decreasing cost should not be on the expense of quality, because actually we need to enhance the process and reduce cost, and it does not mean compromising the quality. For example, I need to minimize the cost. This is not against the idea of buying raw materials of low quality. So you have to do both, enhancing the quality while reducing the cost. And this is the role of the management. Why when to make sure that it's happening, or we are moving in the right direction, we have to have KPIs for each process. I have KPIs, key performance indicators. So I have key performance indicators for the quality. I have to keep performance indicators for the cost. So the KPIs of the cost are saying that we are reducing cost. What about the KPIs, the quality KPIs? They should mention that still the quality is good, or actually it's improving. So using the KPIs, you have to be in the right direction. I want to make sure that I'm not compromising the quality on the expense of the cost. And this, by the way, this happens with some people, with some companies. In order to reduce the cost, they reduce the quality, which is at the end of the day will lead to a disaster. Patient will be dissatisfied, and dissatisfaction will encourage this patient to move away from this company. So you have to set KPIs, and you have to keep the KPIs in order to make sure that there is no compromise regarding quality.
Okay. Thank you for answering this question. And the next question is, with just-in-time inventory, are there situations in pharmacies where this approach could actually backfire, like during the shortages?
Yes, it's just-in-time as a concept is not an easy concept to be applied, and it's related to two important things: the volume and the variety of products. And actually, you cannot do it without thinking about a lot of things. Like, for example, why did Toyota succeed with the just-in-time? Because actually they asked all the suppliers to be close to the factory itself. So once I did receive an order, I'm sure that the lead time for finalizing this order will never be a long time. So you have to think about this, which products I can do this and which products. For example, I have a relation with a distributor. Which distributor can give me the product in a very short time? If not, so I have to make a stock of this product. If yes, he is actually very professional distributor. He has usually a continuous availability of the product. So I have to stock minimal amount of the product. And actually, if I have an urgent order, I can ask for more products. And you have to remember the 80-20 while applying the just-in-time. Maybe it's very risky to apply the just-in-time with the 20% of products which give the 80% of results. Because here, if I have shortage, it will be a disaster. Maybe I can apply the just-in-time with the 80% of products which give me the 20% of the results.
Okay. Thank you also for answering this question. I also have here a question is saying, how can I start a new hospital recruitment numbers since there is no all the data? What is the correct starting point?
Can you repeat the question, because I did not
Okay,
hear
so the question is saying, how can I start a new hospital recruitment numbers since there is no all the data? What is the correct starting point? I think it's saying recruitment in the pharmacy inside the hospital. That means
recruitment. You mean recruitment?
Yeah, recruitment.
Procurement. Procurement.
Maybe the spelling, but I read it in the
Okay.
chat. Yes.
Maybe he's asking about the procurement or the purchasing. How to start with no data. This is a new hospital. This is a new pharmacy within a new hospital. There is no the previous demand. So how to start? This is a very challenging action. Why? Because actually, usually we base forecast on previous numbers. So actually, it will be a trial and error because actually I do not have data about the past. I do not know what is the actual demand for antibiotics, for analgesics, for anti-inflammatory. So it's about trial and error. There is no rule here about the right way. And actually, once you have data for the first month or the second month, you can then base your forecast for the forthcoming month based on the first and second. And this is by the way, it's a normal in every industry and every situation. Once we have still no history, so we cannot use actually the forecasting, especially the quantitative methods. Maybe I can ask a consultant to come and tell me his assumption regarding this situation based on his experience in the industry and not based on the previous numbers because we do not have numbers.
Yes, and it's right. It was procurement, and I read it just.
Yes.
So the answer is there is no starting point. It's a trial
Yes.
and error, as you mentioned. So now only one question remaining. For the last question is on forecasting. What is the most common mistake made when predicting demand for medicines?
When predicting what?
Demand for medicines.
Demand for medicines. He's talking here about forecasting mistakes.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes.
So we have a lot of
mistakes.
forecasting mistakes. The most famous forecasting mistake is using a non-proper method for a pattern. For example, we have two types of markets: stable markets and unstable markets. Stable market, it means the pattern is either moving this way, ascending pattern, or descending pattern. So it's called pattern or trend. The other ways, like the random or the cyclic. I did mention some of the methods today. The naive method, for example, one of the most common mistakes is using naive method with the unstable market. It's not right because naive method is compatible only with the stable market. So the most common and famous forecasting mistake is using non-proper method. If the demand is unstable, so I have to use simple moving average, weighted moving average, or actually exponential smoothing. So the first mistake is using a non-proper method. The second mistake is to rely on a single method. No, you have to use more than one method, and then you have to do validation. And we have a lot of techniques for validation. We have something called MSE, mean squared error, or MAD, mean absolute deviation. So we have methods for a stable market, and we have methods for unstable market. Then I have to select the proper methods for the stable market. Let's say they are two. Then I have to validate the numbers of the two methods and select the method with the lowest error. This is actually, it will be an accurate forecast.
Okay. So this was the last question. I did not receive any more. I was just confirming. Yes. Okay, thank you, Dr. Rafat, for being with us today and this presentation. And also, it was a great interaction with the question and comments for the presentation. Thanks a lot. And now, without any further ado, اتفضل, Doctor. Yes.
Thank you for you, and thank you for your attendees. And actually, you are waiting for the last session, which will be next month.
Yes, inshallah, we will be having another session, which will be also completing our program. So it will be a full enhancement program. Thanks a lot. And now let me just introduce our last session without any further delay. Maria, just confirm I'm okay. Okay. Okay, and after the end of the questions, Dr. Rafat, now we will have the disease awareness session titled Allergic Rhinitis in Focus, Treatment Choices and Tackling Adherence Challenges with our speaker, Dr. Hani Qassami. Dr. Hani is ENT consultant at INT'L Hospital in Kuwait. He is member in the European board in ORL HNS, which is Rhinology Head and Neck Surgery. Thanks a lot, Dr. Hani, for being with us today, and the floor of yours to start your presentation.
Thank you. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I am Dr. Hani Qassami, ENT consultant at INT'L Hospital, Kuwait. It's nice to meet you today with this valuable webinar. Our topic today is about allergic rhinitis. Allergic rhinitis is a very common disease for ENT practitioners and also for our outpatient clinics, and a lot of patients actually we see every day suffering from this very common disease. We will give you like short idea about allergic rhinitis, and I will not go too much deep. Don't worry. Allergic rhinitis is type 1 hypersensitivity immune response. That's mean it is immune disease. It is not like acquired disease. It's look like viral disease. It's not like infection, whatever. It is an immune disease, and it is type 1 hypersensitivity immune disease, which include two response. Early response, once the patient's exposed to the antigen, what happened actually, mast cell stimulation and degranulation to release a lot of mediators. The most famous is histamine, prostaglandins, and leukotrienes. And this is responsible for the, let's say, the short response or short symptoms for allergic rhinitis, which is rhinorrhea, runny nose, sneezing, and itching. Itching actually, especially in the area of the nose, sometimes also for the eye, sometimes for the throat from inside. So we can call this the early response or the first phase of allergic rhinitis, and it lasts about 30 minutes, not more, and disappear. The late response is due to eosinophils chemotaxis. Eosinophils, as you know, one of white blood cells responsible for also immune reaction. Once eosinophils accumulated in the nasal mucosa, and sure, this takes some time, it will make like breakup and remodeling of the nasal mucosa and cause nasal congestion and for sure nasal obstruction, or what was the patient tell us he feel blocked nose. So now allergic rhinitis, type 1 hypersensitivity immune response. It includes two responses, one early and one late reaction. The early response responsible for the rhinorrhea, sneezing, itching, and this disappear within 30 minutes. And the late reaction, which is nasal obstruction or nasal congestion, and it appear later, about hours later, and subside very slowly. So this is a short brief on allergic rhinitis. Allergic rhinitis is prevalence. Actually, it is a common disease. When we go to the literature and research, we find that about 30% of adults are suffering from allergic rhinitis all over the world, and about 40% of children also suffering from allergic rhinitis. And we have here to make like spotlight on the comparison between allergic rhinitis and adenoid hypertrophy in children, because these are both the most common causes for runny nose and rhinorrhea and nasal obstruction for children. And the adenoid hypertrophy percentage is a little bit less than allergic rhinitis. Prevalence of risk and risk factors for allergic rhinitis in United Arab Emirates, because this is actually the only study available for the Gulf area. It's shown that about 32% of allergic rhinitis patients in United States of United Arab Emirates. Also, what we can search, what is the allergen? So type 1 hypersensitivity reaction means that there is allergy for certain allergen. What is this allergen? It could be dust mite, which is the most common allergen all over the world, and molds, some sort of fungus, and also animals like cats, like pets, usually like dogs, and pollens, especially in gardens and area. All these are we call the aeroallergen. That means they are the antigen responsible for the allergic reaction, as we mentioned before, in this common disease. And for sure, if there is a certain cause, we have to avoid to decrease symptoms for allergy. And for each allergen, we have some methods to avoid. For example, dust mites, which we call in Arabic حشرة الفراش. It is not the dust in the street or in the weather. It is the dust inside our homes, in carpets, in curtains, in pillows, and so on. So the best way to avoid this allergen, like wash beddings by hot water and drying later, and also regular change of bedding, and also special covers when we can buy it, like some sort of anti-sensitive or anti-allergic cotton and clothes. And for molds, how to avoid? There is HEPA filters. What's HEPA filter? It is high efficiency particulate air. It is like this devices, like we can buy also available to put inside the room of the allergic patients to try to purify the air around him and to decrease the sensitivity and allergy. And for sure, for animals or home pets, we have to keep them outdoor and make regular care and regular vaccination. And for pollens, there is very common processes which we can put inside our nostril. It's called nasal allergy filter. So now we talk about what is this disease. It is an immune disease. What is the cause? There is certain antigen and how to avoid, and this is the way. Also regarding foods, a lot of patients imagine that allergic rhinitis only related to the inhalation or inspiring some allergens. But this is actually not fully true, because there is a lot of foods to exaggerate the symptoms and allergic reaction. On the top of this food is dairy products like milk, like eggs, also sweets, especially in children. Too much sweet make more allergy. Also fermented and fried food, So this is our message to avoid fast food for those patients are suffering from allergy. And on the reverse, there is some foods that help us to decrease the symptoms or the severity, let's say, of the allergy. Something like apples, as all of us know, 1 apple a day, keep doctor away. Also salmon, also green tea, also sweet potatoes. A lot of also food act as anti-allergic foods. Now we will talk about some common associations between allergic rhinitis, and we have to consider in all our patients that there is a very common combination or association between this disease and allergic rhinitis. First of all is asthma, bronchial asthma. It is the most common association. About 80% of asthmatic patients have allergic rhinitis. And on the reverse, about 40% of allergic rhinitis patients also have asthma. So very common association. So when we are treating with the patient with allergic rhinitis, please consider what is his chest condition, what is his asthmatic condition, he's taking inhaler or not. All this we have to consider. Also, family history is a very common association. If the parents, one of the parents has allergic rhinitis, that means the chance of that sibling or the babies to develop allergic rhinitis is about 50%. If both parents have allergic rhinitis, this percentage will be more, up to 80%. The kids will suffer from allergic rhinitis. What about pregnancy? Pregnancy, one of the factors, or let's say it is not a disease, yes, but it is a physiologic condition that sometimes increase the symptoms of allergic rhinitis, sometimes remains the same, sometimes decrease. So not clear exaggeration for allergic rhinitis, but it is equivocal. But what we are sure of, that if the mothers smoke or there is some household pets in the first trimester especially, this is a very high risk for the kids to develop allergic rhinitis. So decreased risk of allergy, for sure. This is very nice also information that about microbial exposure in early life shifts the immune system. What is the meaning of shifting the immune system? As we will mention that the most common cell for allergy is T helper 1 cell. So this microbial exposure make shift in the immune system from 2 helper 2 to 2 helper 1, and this is decrease the allergy and very, very common risk. What about medication? I know most of the attendees is a pharmacist, so there is a lot of medication, actually those vasodilators, which increase the symptoms of allergic rhinitis. So consider this when we are dealing with allergic rhinitis patients, that this medication may exaggerate the symptoms. On top of this list is the antihypertensive medication like ACE inhibitor, like calcium channel blocker, simply because they are vasodilator. What is the meaning of vasodilatation? That means congestion, more obstruction, more runny nose, more itching, and so on. Also nitrates, because also for those suffering from ischemic heart disease, also it is a vasodilator. Also sildenafil, it is very common use medication. Also we have to consider and to pay attention of our patients that this may increase the symptoms of allergic rhinitis. Also alcohol, especially for those outside our Arabic countries. What about GERD? I mean by GERD is gastroesophageal reflux disease. It is vice versa. What is the meaning of this? That allergic rhinitis may exaggerate GERD symptoms, and on the reverse, GERD symptoms may exaggerate allergic rhinitis. Now to the practical and the clinical symptoms of allergic rhinitis. As we mentioned before, rhinorrhea, sneezing, itching, and nasal obstruction. This is the most common 4 symptoms for allergic rhinitis patients. And what about associations? Associations include ocular symptoms like itchy eye, like swollen and red eye, like excessive lacrimation. So when you find the patients with allergic rhinitis suffering from the eye, this may be one of the like symptoms to have to direct him that this is related and closely related to allergic rhinitis. Also throat symptoms like throat itching, throat irritation, throat clearance, and throat cough. Also, all these symptoms are related to allergic rhinitis and not something else. For sure, for those patients are suffering from allergic rhinitis for a long time, they will develop some complication like sinus complication like sinusitis and chronic rhinosinusitis and nasal blebosis and so on. We will see later. Also ear symptoms like ear fullness, ear pressure, sticky and tube dysfunction, a lot of symptoms. So it is not only about some runny nose, some sneezing. Oh, no, it will be advanced later if not treated well. Regarding the complication, when we talk about complication, we have to talk about quality of life. And this, as we will see later, it is one of criteria to classify, is this allergic rhinitis severe or mild or moderate, according to how it affects the quality of our lives. As we see in this area, and I will show you now, the classification of allergic rhinitis. We classify allergic rhinitis according to the symptoms. If it is less than 4 days a week or less than 4 weeks per year, we consider this allergic rhinitis intermittent, like seasonal. Otherwise, if it lasts for more 4 days per week or 4 weeks per year, we consider this patient has persistent allergic rhinitis. So this is the main groups of allergic rhinitis, either intermittent or persistent. Regarding the symptoms, we also classify them either mild or moderate to severe. According to what? According to, as we mentioned before, the quality of life. If this allergy affecting the patient's sleep, I mean disturbed sleep, or disturbing the daily activity like sport, like entertainment, or for example, make absence of the work or absence of the school. So that means this allergic rhinitis is affecting his quality of life. That means it is severe disease. What about diagnosis? For sure, we consider the clinical symptoms for diagnosing allergy. Actually, I can't examine the nose of one person and tell him, oh, you are allergic, and examine the nose of another person and to tell him, no, you don't have allergy. No, it is about the symptoms. We have to hear our patients and take a very precise history. What is the symptoms, for how long, for how many days, for how many weeks, for how many months? What about the situation surrounding you? What is about environment? What about your work, for example, if he's working in factories or in area of gardens or so on. So we have to take a precise disease and to reach a diagnosis. But if we talk about the lab test and X-ray and so on, not so helpful for us. But we have to mention that the most common diagnosis for allergic rhinitis is skin pregnancy test, also to measure the specific serum IgE level. And we have many ways for measuring that. I don't want to tell too much deep information. Again and again, what about treatment? Treatment, we have to talk as we started this allergic disease. That means there is allergen or antigen that will, when exposed, it will increase the symptoms. So we have to avoid this allergen, as we mentioned before. And regarding the medication, as all of us know, we have 2 medications for allergic rhinitis, either local inside the nose or systemic. Usually the gold standard and the cornerstone for nasal allergy or allergic rhinitis is intranasal steroid. This is the cornerstone. This is the gold standard treatment all over the world for allergic rhinitis. Actually, it decreases all the symptoms: rhinorrhea, sneezing, itching, irritation, throat, also even cough. Nasal steroid is a must and the cornerstone for allergic rhinitis. What about intranasal antihistamine? That's item of nasal spray. It's fine, it's okay, but we can't depend on nasal antihistamine alone. It should be combined with intranasal steroids. So never to tell me I will treat my patients by nasal antihistamine alone. No. We have to consider and combine with intranasal steroids. Also, what about ipratropium bromide to decrease the runny nose and the vasodilatation and the nasal congestion? Also, it helps, but it is not the main or the gold standard for treatment. We have to combine also with intranasal steroid. Now, in this intranasal submucosal injection, we have to make attention that never inject the nose, because we hear about some patients who advised to inject their nose by intranasal steroid, and we find a lot of serious complication. Actually, some reported cases of getting blind from injecting the nose, because to the very close circulation and blood circulation, and these injected materials may go to the retina or eye and make serious complications. So please never think about injecting something inside the nose like steroid or anti-allergic medication. For the systemic medication, for sure, the most common and most accepted is antihistamine. Actually, especially second generation antihistamine and H1 antagonists. Actually, to decrease the nasal congestion, and the leukotriene antagonist also, it helps, but we never consider also leukotriene antagonist as alone or as a single or as a monotherapy for allergic rhinitis. It should combine with antihistamine. Also, cromolyn, as we know, mast cell stabilizer. It helps to decrease or the prophylaxis, to decrease the attacks of allergy and when the patient exposed to allergy. Some other not, let's say, not common or not well-known tools or ways or for options or for treatment is immunotherapy. What is simply immunotherapy? Immunotherapy is a desensitization. We know it is an immune disease. This immune disease, the main factor is high IgE level. So what simply we can do to decrease the level of IgE? How we can do that? By, as you remember, shifting the immune system from 2 helper 2 to 2 helper 1. That's increase IgG and decrease IgE. How we succeed to achieve this? By exposing the patient to the antigen in a very slowly increasing doses, so that allow him to take time to produce IgE and decrease the shock of producing IgE and making the symptoms of allergy. Actually, we have two types of immunotherapy: subcutaneous immunotherapy and sublingual immunotherapy. Rapid comparison between both kind of therapy. Subcutaneous immunotherapy is FDA approved, but oral immunotherapy, some tablets only approved, but sublingual drops not yet approved. Simply, the subcutaneous injection make systemic reaction and the complication, sometimes make anaphylaxis, but sublingual drops will make a little complication or local complication, let's say. For sure, subcutaneous injection, we have to go to the hospital to take the injection, but for sublingual, the patient can take the sublingual drops at home. For the frequency of using this medicine, the subcutaneous injection is once per month, but sublingual drops will be once per week. Subcutaneous injection also, we can address many antigen, but sublingual therapy or immune therapy address only one antigen one by one. So we can give, for example, the drops for the patients to decrease a lot of antigen. No, one by one. Biologics. As we, this is like the most recent era of anti-allergic treatment, which is biologic. What is biologic? Also simply, it is a monoclonal antibodies. What is the value? It reduces symptoms by improving quality of life. The most common biologic available also in market is Doblimab, under the trade name of Dopixent. We give subcutaneous injection every 2 weeks for at least 6 months and see the results, and we can continue, but with more gapping of time. But the results actually of biologic in allergic rhinitis and certain disease like chronic rhinosinusitis with nasal polyposis is marvelous. But the problem, it is very expensive, and we not available for all the patients, and also if the patient stop the biologic treatment, usually symptoms will come back again, and I see a lot of cases. Once they get improved and stop biologic, all the symptoms come back. Here we have to make attention, and please, Dupixent not used for children below 12 years old. We can't combine with live vaccination. We can't take it during asthmatic attack. Also, it has a lot of side effects, so never use in keratoconjunctivitis or heart disease or parasitic infestation. Again, what is the most common Dupixent side effects? One, it is anaphylaxis. This is the most serious and most, let's say, disastrous complication, which is anaphylaxis. But some minimal side effects like burning of the eye, like rash in palm and foot, like body aches or dizziness. Acupuncture, actually, it is like alternative medicine, not well addressed for allergy, but we have to hear about why we want to talk about these options of treatment, because simply the patient will ask us. So we have to have the most recent and most advanced knowledge about everything about the disease, because the patient now go to the social media, ChatGPT, and ask about what is the recent for allergic, and we have to be up to date. Also, nasal therapy, one of the tools for treatment of allergic rhinitis, but again and again, it is not well evident way to treat allergic rhinitis. Influenza vaccine help for sure to decrease the symptoms, to decrease the severity of the disease. Now, what about allergic turbinate hypertrophy? This is very common, let's say, side effects or long-term complication of allergic rhinitis. And this is, for example, one of simple conversation between my patients and me in the clinic. Doctor, allergic rhinitis will never cure. Why to take medicine? Simply because if you don't take the medicine, the complication will happen. The condition will be worse. A lot of complication will appear. So one of these complications, simply we have to know about it, is turbinate hypertrophy. What is turbinate hypertrophy? Is the nasal turbinates when become big in size, and this make complete blockage of the nose. Even when we take nasal spray, it will not respond, and it need surgical intervention using a lot of techniques. For us as a surgeon, something like laser, radio frequency, and microdebrider to decrease or reduce the size of the turbinate. So now, nasal steroids or antihistamine will not work if this complication happen. So we have to direct and guide our patients. Take care. If you don't take the medicine, complication will happen, and once this complication happen, medicine will not help you. Also, one of the common complications of allergic rhinitis is nasal polyposis. These are all picture of the surgery. Let's take it to the nasal polyposis. Nasal polyposis is also one of the common complications of long-lasting allergic rhinitis, and also again and again, once these nasal polyps happen, nasal steroids or antihistamine will not help the patients. Have to go to the surgical solution inside the theater to remove these polyps, and after surgery we will take again the nasal steroid and antihistamine. These all pictures for allergic nasal polyposis. Also, allergic fungal sinusitis is a very common form of allergy. Also, we will talk about it briefly. It is also type 1 hypersensitivity, but sensitivity more to the fungi. This is why we find inside the nose when we go for surgical solution like mud. Mud means that it is like mucin, eosinophilic mucin mud inside the nose, and we have to excise it completely. Otherwise, the patients will recur again and again without any improvement. This is the picture CT scan for allergic fungal sinusitis, and this is actually what inside the nose if there is allergic fungal mucin. For the treatment of allergic fungal sinusitis, it is surgical, and the patients need post-operative local and systemic steroids to avoid recurrence, because this disease is actually highly recurrent disease. We have to take steroids after the surgery for at least 1 year to avoid recurrence again. For immunotherapy and biologic and allergic fungal sinusitis, not well evident till the date. And thank you. This is my last slide. I like this slide very much, not because of I am Egyptian or belong to the pharaohs, but it is very clear in this statues that all the statues we find it actually have broken nose, and this is very clear message from the pharaohs to us that if you want to get rid of anyone, you need to kill him, just broke his nose. And this is their message and the very importance of the nose in our life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hani, for your presentation.
Welcome.
It was very nice message by the end also. Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, and now we are ready for the questions. We are receiving the question chat box or the question or the Q&A. I will receive it.
Yes.
Now let me start with the questions that we received. For the
please.
first one is from your clinical experience, what is the difference between Nasonex and its generics?
Yes, very good question. And actually, we in our practice, we have a lot of questions from our patients. I tried Nasonex, I tried others. What is the difference? Why we prefer, for example, Nasonex? And for me, the practice is a rule. What is the meaning of the practice? Sometimes my patient is starting by Nasonex, and usually I prefer to start by Nasonex actually. And we try it for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. There is no limit for our for using actually Nasonex, and it is very safe, as all of us know. But we have to know that the systemic bioavailability of Nasonex is the least at all. I think it's about less than 0.1%, and this make Nasonex let us in the safe side without any complication, without any harms. For example, we have the patients with glaucoma. All the patients with glaucoma, the ophthalmologist pay their attention, never use nasal steroid, because they have the rights. It may increase the blood, the eye pressure, and worse the condition of glaucoma. But with Nasonex, you are in the safe side. It is the least systemic absorption or systemic bioavailability. Also, a lot of let's say advantage of Nasonex, we can start early as possible. I know the pamphlets tell us not more than actually below 2 years, but I know a lot of pediatricians that start Nasonex safely by 1 year old, and also without any complication with practice. So what can I say for Nasonex? It is the most safe and the most efficient nasal spray, and also let us practice, and you'll find the patient is getting better with Nasonex. Once the patients get come to us in the clinic and tell us, I tried Nasonex for long times, many years, and now not so nice. Please examine your patients very good and think about the complication once we tell you. The solution not to change the nasal spray, other than that there is a complication, something like nasal polyps, something like nasal hypertrophied turbinates. So we will consider surgical solution. And after the surgery, I tell my patients, you will go to the theater using Nasonex, and after the surgery, you will also use Nasonex to avoid complication. This is what can I say regarding the comparison.
Thank you, Dr. Hani. I forgot to mention that there is a lot
Yes.
of thank you for the presentation and for the
Thank you. Thank you.
fruitful information in the presentation, of course, about the allergies and what is the relation between the allergic rhinitis and the allergies. And here there is a question about
Yes.
the nasal anticongestions. Does
Yes.
nasal anticongestions has any role in allergic rhinitis?
As you tell us, nasal anticongestant or nasal decongestant, let's say about pseudoephedrine and so on, it is also decongestant medicine. So it will decrease the congestion, but for how long? And what about the side effects again and again, the safety of this medication? For example, all hypertensive patients can take decongestant. Decongestant have a lot of side effects like insomnia. When the patient take it at night, for example, he will never sleep, and this is our practice. Also, something like prostate enlargement for all the patients, we can never give them decongestant. Hypertensive patient, never to give them decongestant. So decongestant, yes, help for short period of time if the patient completely blocked, but please don't continue more than 4 or 5 days. We deal with nasal decongestant like what we know rhinitis medicamentosa, that nasal decongestants will make the condition more worse. So please don't take it more than few days and for emergency only unless needed.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hani, for answering this question. There is more questions coming also. There is a question saying, Doctor, you said that after surgery, the
Yes.
patient has to take steroids for 1 year.
Sure.
Is it good or bad for the patient, or it will lead to side effects?
No, never. For example, for nasal steroids, only let's say proven side effect is dryness, and simply we give the patients nasal hydration, saline irrigation, together with the nasal steroid or the Nasonex. We never give the nasal steroid as monotherapy. We prefer usually to give to those patients like saline irrigation, like nasal saline or ocean spray, let's say, to hydrate the nose and decrease the dryness, and we can use it for years and many years without any side effect or harms.
Okay, thank you, doctor. And then the next question is it necessary to take steroids in allergies in less than 1 year of children? And I think the other question is also related. Nasonex nasal spray is a corticosteroid, and I want to know that it is good for less than 1 year baby. So
usually, I never give nasal steroid before 1 year. The well-known information that also don't give it before 2 years, but I talk about the practice. A lot of our pediatrician and consultant in pediatric gives Nasonex after 1 year, but never before 1 year. And the very common complication, which is suprarenal gland suppression and something like that, which is maybe dangerous for children below 1 year. And actually, let's talk about the physiology. Allergic rhinitis, we never diagnose allergic rhinitis before 1 year, because this is 1 year, the first year of the childhood is the year of like saline irrigation, like a little amount of antihistamine, like phenestil or first generation antihistamine, but never we give in the first year of our children something like nasal steroid or strong antihistamine.
Okay, thanks a lot, doctor. And there is another question here for the patient having both asthma and allergic rhinitis. What is the recommended treatment?
For sure, for combination, it's a very common association. As I told before, about 80% of asthmatic patients are allergic rhinitis, and we find very comprehensive and also like teamwork for cooperating with our colleagues of respiratory system. They have to describe the best inhaler for the condition of their patients, and also we have the rights to prescribe the best nasal spray for our patients. We never give like what we bronchodilators or other systemic medication for bronchial asthma. We refer the patients to the respiratory doctor to address the best for our patient condition. But it is very close association and very common, but we never prescribe like something to treat bronchial asthma, and we are not respiratory doctors.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dr. Hani. This was the last question I received from our team in the Zoom. Thanks a lot for your presentation, answering the question. Thanks for being with us today. And this is coming to the end of our program as well.
Nice.
Thank you, Dr. Hani. And let me just thank all our attendees today. Thank you all again for attending today's session. You will receive a link soon for the recording of today's sessions. All the sessions was recorded. And then after, you will receive shortly the CME certificates email. Thanks for attending the OPA for today and waiting you for our last session in October, inshallah. Thanks a lot.